Hi, everybody. Whoops, just a moment. Get some light on the subject. I knew I forgot something. Hi, I'm Casey Chisholm Miller, owner and artist at Yaya Made Galveston. And today we're going to do some alterations. Probably not the kind you would have learned in home ec or that mom would have taught you. We're going to add some fabric to a shirt that's too small. I have a tank top and it's too small, so I'm going to add some to the side. And I think that's what my mother would call the gusset. So I'm going to put a gusset in the side of the shirt. And we're doing it in a different way than you would have learned in home ec, I'm sure, because you would have been ripping out seams and hems and all kinds of things. And we're not going to do that. We're going to take a shorter cut to do this, and it's going to look just as nice because I have some finishing touches that I've added. So first off, I have this shirt, and it just spoke to me. It says, "Don't hassle me, I'm local," which is perfect for Galveston because we're a little tourist town. And so anyway, I thought it was cute, but it's too small. And it's something I'll wear around the house. I might wear it on the beach, you know, if I go walking on the beach, but just something fun to have. And so I have found a t-shirt in almost the same color. It's not ribbed like this shirt is, but it's almost the same color and it's the same thickness. So that's what I've chosen to use. I'm going to turn you around so you can see the work table. And there we go. Okay, here's my shirt. I'm going to set this aside for a minute. Now, this is the piece that I'm working with. It is, I bought the t-shirt for $1, and it was just the right color. And so I cut it apart. The first thing, I cut the sleeves off, and then it had some printing up here, so I cut off where the printing was on the front and on the back. And so this is the back of the shirt, and I have it folded over, folded it in two, and this is the fold, but I'm not going to use the fold. Now, I am pear-shaped, which means I'm small busted and larger at the bottom. So the piece, the gusset that I'm going to put in this shirt is going to be a wedge shape. And I have this wedge that I'm going to use as a pattern, plus I'm going to add to it. Some of you quilters may have this. Now, if you're shaped differently, or you want your shirt to be more straight, then you would probably just want to make your piece straight and just add the same amount of space all the way down. If you're bustier, you could use the wedge, and then you would use it upside down from what I would be using it. So, back to the table. Alrighty, here we go. I'm going to take my wedge. I have some pins in this, but I need to do that later. I've left the hem on the bottom of the shirt. So it still has the bottom hem, and I'm going to use that. So we're leaving that on. So I'm going to place my wedge on the fabric with the bottom of the wedge on the bottom of the hem. Now I want my wedge or my gusset to be even larger than this wedge, so I'm going to add a 1/4 inch on each side. And the way I do that is I have two pins rubber band together. The first pin, the point is not extended, so it won't write. But the other pin, the point is extended, and so that's what we're going to make the markings with. So I'm just going to mark all along the wedge. And I'm not going to make one long line. I'm just going to make dashes, and I'll follow that with my scissors. And I'm going to cut the wedge, the entire length of the wedge, even though I'm not going to need the entire length, because from the arm to the hem of the shirt that I'm going to fix, it's shorter than this, but we want to cut all of it. So I'm going to do that again on the other side. Making my marks, and that's my cutting line. I've got 2 layers of fabric because this is folded over, so I'm cutting both pieces at one time. I will be. Okay, now is when I put the pins in, because I just want to make sure that it doesn't slip on me when I'm cutting. So I'm securing it with pins, just about 4 of them, the length of that wedge shape that we're working with, just so the fabric will not move on me. And so I'm going to cut out the wedge. Just cutting along those lines we drew. There's 1 down, 1 to go. Now, when I show you how to do this, I'm just going to do one side, because if we do it once, then you'll know how to do it, and you won't have to wait on me doing the other side. Trying to not keep you tied up too long. All right, there's my 2 wedges. Now I can tell the right side and the wrong side because of the hem. So we'll set those aside. I don't know if you saw that. There's the hem, so we know this is the wrong side because there's the wrong side of the hem. Now the shirt, we need to prepare it. I'm going to, of course, turn it wrong side out. And we're not going to rip or pick the seam open. We're just going to cut the seam out. Now, the way I do that, I'm not going to hold it like this and then cut one time. Invariably, if you do that, you're going to cut more than you need to. I am going to cut through the hem, and I'm going to cut as close to the stitching as I can. And it's a little tedious because you kind of have to hold it so you don't cut too much or too little. Just right. And make sure you don't have that other side there. You just want to cut one layer at a time. Okay, I've got that one done. Now I'm going to go back, and it's easier for me to flip it over. And I'm going to cut this, do the same thing. I'm going to cut it as close to the stitching as possible. It's a little easier now since it's already apart. Now today we're going to use the serger to do this, but if you don't have a serger, no problem. You can use your sewing machine. Most of the sewing machines today have a stretch stitch. This is a stretch knit, so they have a stretch stitch. If you don't have that, you can use a zigzag. If you have a straight stitch only machine, look in your instruction booklet and it should say something about the settings that you should use for that. Okay, we've got her cut apart, and all we lost was that tiny little seam. We didn't lose any more fabric. Now, we're going to take this gusset and we're going to put right sides together. Now, your hem may be a different depth on one shirt or the other. Don't worry about that. Right here, there's some extra fabric and stitching within that hem. I'm just going to clip that away because it's going to be extra thickness that we don't need. So I just took that out. All right, I've got right sides together, and I'm just lining up the bottom of the hems together, and I'm going to pin it. Now, when you're pinning it, be very careful that you don't stretch either of the fabrics. You don't want it to stretch. You want it to just lay atop one another, and then pin. I'm big on pinning. If you're not a big pinner, or if you like to use the clips, whatever is what you do will work. Just about got it. And then the last pin here at the top, at the armhole. Now I've got quite a bit of fabric left, so over 6 inches. I'm not going to need that. I'm going to leave, well, I'm going to leave 2 inches more than I need. I mean, more than the shirt is long. So I'm just going to cut that. So I've got, here's the arm of the shirt right here, and then I've got this extra 2 inches. Now I'm going to pin the other side. Where's my edge? There it is. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line up the hem. So the bottom of the hems on the gusset and on the shirt are lined up. And then I'm just going to pin it, being careful not to stretch either the gusset fabric or the shirt fabric. No pulling. And I'm a big pinner, so whatever works for you. Okay, so we're pinned, and my 2 inches is, we're good. Now we're going to go to the serger. It's loud. It's on a table, and so it sounds louder than it should. And I have it sitting on a towel trying to muffle the noise a little bit. So you may want to just put your volume down a little bit. So we're going to go to the serger and seam up this top and gusset. Let me see. Whoop, got you too far over. There you go. Okay, I think you can see her pretty good there. Now I'm using a 4-thread serge overlock, whatever you want to call it. You can use a 3-thread overlock if you prefer. Whatever is your preference. And I'm just going to seam that up. Now I'm a starter and a stopper because I've got to take these pins out. And so I'm not the speediest sewist, so don't be alarmed. All right, here we go. And I am taking the smallest seam allowance as I can. Just, it's cutting off hardly any fabric at all. Got one of them done, and now we're going to do the other side. When you have a gusset, you have 2 seams on each side. So let's do the other one. I've offset a little bit, like when you sew in the round and you offset and then you serge onto your fabric. So that's what I'm doing, in case you're wondering. Almost there. Okay, that's done. Let's go back to the work table. Back to the work table. All right, so here's what we've got. We have the seam here and the seam here, and this is your insert. This is that wedge that I made. And this is a gusset. My mother called this a gusset. I think that's the right term. And so your hems, they're not exactly the same. But if anybody's going to be looking at your hem real close, really, I don't think you need to have that. Okay, so now to finish off the top, I'm going to trim these threads because I'm going to sew over them and they'll be locked. What I'm going to do is fold this over so it is even with the top of the sleeve hem, and I'm pinning that. I'm not in camera, okay, and then I have thread over here, so I'm just going to fold that over, and I've got that even with that side. And we have extra. We have this extra, but that's okay. So here we have it going across. And now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. I have a cover stitch machine, but this is not enough to pull out the cover stitch machine and rethread it and all of that. So I'm going to do what I'm going to do, see on your hem of your arm facing, your arm hem, there's two, it was done with a cover stitch machine, so there's 2 lines of stitching. I'm just going to do 2 lines of stitching, lining it up with those across our gusset piece at the armhole, and just do that twice, and so it'll give it a more finished look, and then we'll just trim away the excess. So let's go do that. I have to put you on the other stand over there. All right, we'll go over to the sewing machine and get you in my little improvised stand. It works well. Okay. Where's the foot? Well, let's do you over here. You can watch it from this side, and I'll try to stay out of your way. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to stitch from the top. So from the right side. And I'm just going to start where the stitching is on the shirt itself. And I'm just doing that by hand, so I'll have it in the right place, and then lower my foot. And I have the gusset folded over to the back side, to the wrong side. So we're sewing on top on the right side. I'm just going to sew across. Well, we'll set our stitches first. Stitch a couple and back stitch. I do that. Okay. Increase my stitch length. There we go. And back stitch. And trim. And then we're going to do that again. So we're going to have 2 lines of stitching, just like the original garment has. And that's going to give it some continuity and some finish. So it'll look more finished. Get my hands out of the way. Okay, here we go. Set my stitches, back stitch, and just following along, and then coming out where that other one did, set my stitches, and then we're going to trim. We're going to take it back over to the work table. We've done a lot of back and forth today. I'll put you back on here with the rubber bands so we won't drop you. All that high-tech stuff. All right, we got you. All right, here's what we got. There's that extra fabric. I'm just going to trim that away. Trim it close to the stitches. Be careful not to trim your shirt or your gusset. You just want to trim the extra fabric away. So there it is. There's your double stitching, just like the shirt has. And then your hem, there's where it comes along. And your hem already has stitching in your gusset and stitching on your hem of your garment. And that's all you do. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side, of course. I'll show you one that I've finished already. This one was just the opposite. It was plain t-shirt fabric, and then the gusset is the ribbed knit. And it has the stitching in the gusset to match the stitching on the sleeve. And then the hem is finished out. I, cut the threads and secured the serger threads. So there's one that we've already done. And that's all there is to it. I hope that that is something that you can do and enjoy. Hi, Julie. Hi, Zach. It's super easy. And as I said, if you don't have a serger, that's okay. You can use a zigzag stitch, or you can use the stretch stitch that most of the machines, the sewing machines have. If you don't have a serger, that's okay. You can still do it. You might need to use a ballpoint needle in your machine when you do that. So it'll sew better than sometimes than a regular needle will. And that should do it. I hope that is helpful to you. And I'm Casey at Yaya Made Galveston. I will ask you to like my Facebook page if you haven't already. And like and share and comment on this video. And also, these videos, most of them are putting them up on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, which is also Yaya Made Galveston. So if you like to watch your videos on YouTube more than Facebook, you can do that. And you can like and share and comment there also. I'd appreciate it. And then also check out my Etsy shop, which is yayamadegalveston.etsy.com. And I have handbags and sewing patterns and bookmarks and plant pot covers, some really cute things. And you might find something you can't live without. Or tell your friends, maybe they will. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Stay safe.